Let's bring in Mr. Ngige to weigh in on this matter. Mr. Ngige, see the things that Mr. Zekome has outlined, the things that the new electoral bill would have, the amended electoral bill would have introduced, the legality of all these things that the INEC is already introducing in its electoral process. Do you think they hold enough water to have waiting on the president so that he would have assented to this bill?
Thank you very much. Well, I have listened to my brother on the points he made. Good points he made, and there are those that are not acceptable. I have read the reason the president gave in his letter. Before I read the reasons, I was kind of, appalled. I was angry. I said, for the fourth time, that this withholding of assent is being given. What is going on? But when on the social media, the letter written to the Speaker of the House of Reps was uploaded and, it went viral, I read it. And I then changed my mind. I found that the president had good reasons for withholding assent. Firstly, the president mentioned about making fundamental amendment to a law close to election. That's a genuine point of observation. Somebody mentioned ECOWAS protocol on election. Yes, Nigeria is a signatory to that protocol, that you don't do a fundamental amendment to your election law less than 60 days to the election. And today we have an election that is coming up in February. So you can see that it is too close to the holding of election. And then there are other reasons Mr. President gave in his letter, which many people have not bothered to read. There are inherent draftsmanship error in the bill, and that was what was pointed out. That, for instance, Section 84 says that a political party intending to enter into a merger or fusion should give INEC 90 days of his intention to merge. In the amendment that has been sent for assent, another section contradicted it by saying INEC should be given 21 days. So you can see the inherent contradiction in the draftsmanship of that law. So the president cannot, with the type of advisors he has, append his signature to such a proposed legislation. Then, coming back on timing of the amendment, my brother mentioned about the Supreme Court decision in Ngige and other cases. Fortunately, I happen to be one of the lawyers in that matter. The issue there was not manual voting. The issue there was manual accreditation. It was an election in which 200,000 people were accredited in Rivers State, and the governor got 1.2 million votes. So on his face, you could see that there's a problem there. And an issue was raised in the election petition that, having regard to the disparity between the number of accredited voters using card reader and the number of people that voted, that election must have been tainted with fraud. But the Supreme Court, in allowing the appeal, said that INEC cannot use card reader to do accreditation because no law permitted it to do so. Unknown to us, unknown to the Supreme Court, there was an amendment President Jonathan signed on 24th or 25th of March 2015, empowering INEC to determine the process of voting in any way it deems fit. That amendment repealed the prohibition against electronic voting and now empowered INEC to determine how it could conduct election. And conducting election, it includes accreditation. It happened that the gazette for that law was not made public. Even INEC, I believe, didn't know about the gazette. So all the tribunal matters went with people being in dark over an amendment that would have helped the petitioners in challenging the election in Rivers State or Akwa Ibom. If that law had been known prior to the time of filing the petition or during the time the petition was in progress, I believe that the election in Rivers and Akwa Ibom would have been nullified. So it buttresses the point about knowing the law very well before election is conducted. Nobody knew that President Jonathan's amendment had been gazetted, but was not made public. So that's why, after reflecting on the reason given by Mr. President, I tend to agree with him that the amendment that have been done by this proposed legislation too close to election with fundamental provisions that will require proper preparation that is in order. The President said you can make this law to take effect from 2019. I don't see any problem there. And another thing I want to point out is that the National Assembly cannot override that withdrawal of assent as it is now, because those inherent contradictions pointed out in that letter, they cannot do an override with those contradictions still in the bill. They need to go and amend.
Okay.
Because there's another provision where they made a proviso to a section, I think section 36. They didn't relate that proviso, because section 36 has section 36.1, 36.2, 36.3, 36.4. They said put a proviso in section 36 in line 6. Where is the line 6? Is it in subsection 1? Is it in subsection 2? Is it in subsection 3? So these are the things the letter pointed out, and I believe the National Assembly members should look into it with an open mind, address the issues raised, and then send it back for Mr. President to assent.
Okay, let me get back to you, Mr. Ozekome. The submissions of your colleague are some of the things that the President talked about. A portion of it says the figure 30 should, it says section 5 of the bill amending section 18 of the Principal Acts should indicate the subsection to which the substitution of the figure 30 for the figure 60 is to be affected. These are like draftman errors, which Mr. Ngige talked about. But let's look at the... Okay, let me get back to you, Mr. Ngige. That bit about overriding the president and the timing. First of all, the elections are a little bit over 60 days away. So if the president had signed that bill last week, would still be within the time frame required, because elections are February 16th. But you say it is not possible for the National Assembly to override him at this point because of the draftman errors. The other aspect of the technology that is being introduced, is it justiciable? Can anybody, at the end of the day, say, INEC introduced technology, they introduced card readers, advanced or enhanced card readers, as they have continued to say. Now, because they have introduced this, can they go to court to say this wasn't done with the technology that INEC introduced? Because by law, INEC is empowered to determine the processes or how it's going to conduct the elections. Are these justiciable?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Contrary to the impression being created by some people, The law, as it is today, the extant law, does not prohibit INEC from using card reader. Card reader can still be used. The only thing the amendment brought about is making it without an option that only card reader and card reader alone should be used in accreditation. You see, the election is still to be manually conducted. That is the voting process. It's still manual. It's not electronic. It is only the accreditation that card reader comes into play. And the law as it is today, INEC can still conduct that election using card reader. And if card reader fails, they can resort to that manual accreditation, releasing the form. And let me tell you, it would have been very dangerous to rely solely on card reader as a means of accreditation without giving an option for, that is option B. Why do I say so? With technology, the system can fail anytime. We all living witnesses. When you go to bank to cash your money, they will tell you that you cannot withdraw, that our system is down. You go to another bank or another branch of that bank, our system is down. And for hours, the system will be down before it will come up again and banking transactions will resume.
Okay, Mr. Ngige, just hold your thoughts. Let's flip over to Mr. Zakame.